It's the morning star drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Friday, April 28th. And this is the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. We're on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So what is happening on this wonderful and amazing Friday? Yes, it's the weekend, and we are doing things kind of like a new program, more like a podcast, like we did yesterday. And of course, we're going to have the word study on the Wednesday message and until the end segment on mental health with Daniel Baker. So I hope you guys are going to enjoy this new type of format. Please keep me informed of what you guys think about what's going on. All right. So how are you guys doing today? Friday has come, and I'm sure all of you are getting ready to enjoy the weekend. Yes. I hope you guys looking forward to just fun, relaxation, doing your missions, realizations, Sunday message, new directions, but I'm super glad that you're here kicking it off together here on the Morning Star Drive. And of course, the most important part, this platform was built for the community, right? More than anything else, it's for the community. And, you can communicate with me through liking, through commenting on other people's comments. Just liking people's comments is great too. But I do want to hear from you guys and see how you're doing. So post, you can give song requests. You can post your questions, your stories. I just want you guys to just keep asking every day, and I want to be able to answer your questions every day too. Just a quick reminder, this Saturday we have a music video coming out from Tuli, Sky, and Julie. It's not me, right? But it's a different Sky, obviously. And it's the song Fishers of Men. So I hope you guys will enjoy that music video that comes out on Saturday. But you also got to know, next Saturday we're going to have another awesome Provi, right? It's going to be another Provi. Chris Jansen, he's just pulling out more content, so let's support him as much as we can, all right? So that's going to be, this Saturday is going to be the music video, and then next week's going to be Provi. We have some poetry and stuff coming out too, so I hope you guys will really, really enjoy this, all right? So it's Friday. It is Friday, and I think all of us look forward to it because, we get the weekend off. We stop work. A lot of people can take a break from school and stuff like that too. And for me, it's kind of cool for me right now thinking about a new way to do these podcasts so that more and more people can be involved. And we do have the same segments coming out. We have more segments coming soon too. Like, I'm totally looking forward to the Man Cave. The Man Cave, I believe, will come out on May 9th in Asia. May 9th. Right? So when you guys see this, May 9th will be the first episode of Man Cave. I already got I got the first girl who's ready to be on board for, I don't know what you'd call it, the girl cave, or I don't call it the vanity mirror. I don't know what you want to call it, but I want to have one where girls can talk about not their side, but just kind of react to how that first episode of the Man Cave came out. We're going to keep recording a lot as much as we can too. So I hope you guys will enjoy that also. For me, kind of cool thing for you guys just to know is this is my first podcast in Vancouver since I've got here. I'm finally home. I got here early yesterday morning, which is Wednesday morning for me over here in Canada, but I'm finally home. But interesting thing is it's not really my home because I haven't lived here very long. And the house that my parents actually moved into this house not too long ago, like 15 years ago. I think 15 years ago, and I wasn't here when they moved. And I haven't lived here for a very long time. Like, in those 17 years, I was like running for Providence. I came here about 4 times. I think 4 or 5, maybe. Total of maybe 2 months I've stayed in this house. So it's kind of not really like my home, but it's still my home. And I enjoy it. It's very, very comfortable here. Obviously, being with my parents and stuff like that too. And my parents are like, we're going on vacation next month. I'm like, go ahead. Next month is crazy for me. May is the craziest month. Like, we have Mother's Day, and then my dad's birthday, and then my brother's birthday a week after that, and then Father's Day. Like, in June is my brother's birthday and Father's Day, and my brother's birthday is 1 week away from my dad's birthday. Oh, it's going to be expensive. It's going to be expensive 30 days. For sure, it's going to be really, really expensive. So I'm just like, I came at the wrong time. But I came here on Wednesday morning, and it was kind of cool because both my parents came to pick me up. I was really shocked, and my dad works. Like, he does a part-time job in insurance, And he came to pick me up, and I'm like, wow, my dad took time off work so that my dad and my mom together can come pick me up at like 11 a.m. And I was really moved by it. Like, wow, you came to pick me up. And then I kind of felt spoiled too at the same time because I'm like, here I am, this 44-year-old where my dad's taking his day off work to come and pick me up from work and come pick me up from the airport and stuff. So I was just like, oh yeah, I'm moved, but I also feel really like, wow, they actually did that for me kind of thing. So and then we went out to my first meal, and of course, those you guys don't know, sushi is like awesome in Vancouver. We have a ton of like salmon farms. So it's considered cheap for like developed countries, like, compared to America and Europe and such. It's very, very cheap here. So I love Vancouver sushi. The sashimi is definitely the best, and it's considered quite cheap compared to other countries. Of course, not as good as Southeast Asia, not that cheap, right? But it's very, very good and high quality. So I found that, very interesting. But, here's a funny thing. So, when you first go to Malaysia or you go to Southeast Asia, the first thing, I don't know, whenever you go on vacation, whenever you go to another country, you're always converting the prices to your home country, right? So everything was to US or Canadian dollars. And every time I'm in Malaysia, I'm like, wow, that's so cheap. I'm in the Philippines. Wow, so cheap. I'm in like Vietnam or Indonesia, and everything's like, wow, it's so cheap. Thailand's so cheap. And then, I left Malaysia after 6 months, and I first flew into Singapore, and, the sandwich is $13. I was like, what? And I'm just converting, like, that's 50 ringgit. And then I'm like, the latte was $7 at the Singapore airport, and it was a terrible latte too. But it was $7, which is like 25 ringgit. I'm just like, I get my lattes for like 10 ringgit in Malaysia, and it's like 25 in Singapore. And the funny thing I noticed is I'm converting everything back to Malaysian ringgit now. In my head, I'm like, it's so expensive. I'm like, the sushi meal my mom bought for me, I was like, that's so expensive. And it was kind of crazy because it's weird how you easily, like, how one thing Sunseem said about human beings is one of the superpowers that human beings have is the ability to adapt. We easily get used to things. And the example Sunseem gave, which is so true, is like, think about if there's something that smells in the room. However, if you stay there long enough, you get used to the smell, even if it's really bad. You just get used to it, and you'll live in that filth, right? And it's kind of crazy. And if you think about it, yeah, that's just the way human beings are. We easily adapt to the different things that happen. You can be rich, and eventually you'll adapt. Then after you become poor, it's hard at the beginning, but eventually you adapt, right? And even look at our situation right now with all this chaos and craziness happening in Providence. Yeah, in the beginning, it's like, oh my gosh, we'll never get through this. And then about 3 weeks later, we're like, oh, yeah, we're used to it. Think about COVID. We're eventually like, yeah, we're eventually used to it. It's not as bad as we thought it was, right? And I just realized, like, yeah, human beings, we really adapt quickly. And I think that is a superpower, which is good and bad, because you can get used to being an evil person. I would have to say the first time that I ever stole something, and guess how much I stole? It was like 20 cents, like super cheap. What I do is, I'm so stupid, but I think I was like 14 years old, 15 years old, and I'd go to 7-Eleven, and I'd have these, like, these candies, and you get this bag, and you start putting these candies inside the bag, and these candies are like 5 cents each, sometimes 10 cents. And in the beginning, man, the first time I stole, it was like maybe 1 or 2, so it's only like 10 cents. And I put the extras in, and I bring it to the counter. And, these guys don't really care. They're not going to count every single sour and these candies. And they're like, how many you got? I'm like, 22. When I only have 20. I'd be like, 22. I'd be so nervous. Like, inside, I thought I'd be dying. And then he'd be like, all right. And I pay $1. And it's done. It's just done. I'm just like, whoa, that was easy. And of course, what happens is you get used to it. And I got used to, like, imagine like that first, second, third time, I'm so nervous. And then eventually what happens, I get used to even the bad things that I did. And I started stealing like 5 or 10 and lie about it too. and I get an extra 50 cents kind of thing. But that's kind of one of the things. It's a superpower with the pro and a con is human beings are easily able to adapt. And that was me. Adapt. For 6 months I was pretty much in I was Malaysianized, as someone told me. You're Malaysianized. You think everything is so expensive now. I'm like, yeah, it's so true. So, well, when I was, I flew into San Francisco and I arrived like at 10:30 at night. And I had stayed there for my layover was 10 hours. And that's why I did my podcast there until like 3:30 in the morning. And I just couldn't sleep. And of course, I couldn't sleep because of jet lag. It's like 15 hours difference between San Francisco and Malaysia, and I was just up the entire time. Like the 4 or 5 people that were in the airport, they were all sleeping, and I was just sitting there like I couldn't sleep. And 6 a.m. came around, or 5:30 a.m. came around, and these like cafes started opening. I got myself a latte, all these are different things, but I was just like, man, I can't sleep. So I thought to myself, you know what? I think I'll sleep in the plane. As long as I don't sleep now. 3-hour plane flight, didn't sleep to Vancouver. And I arrived in Vancouver at around 10:30, 11 a.m. And interestingly, when both my parents came to pick me up, which was really sweet also. I was really moved by it because my dad took his day off work to pick up his 44-year-old son. And I'm just like, wow, like that's so moving. But I'm 44. Like I felt so like, wow, you don't have to do that for me kind of thing. But I was really happy that happened also. And of course, like I said, we went to eat sushi after, because sushi in Vancouver is awesome. I don't know if I said that to you or not, but that was my first meal in Vancouver. Sushi, so good. We got awesome salmon farms. And compared to other expensive countries, we're considered very, very cheap for sushi and sashimi, right? And I was just like, oh, this is great. I went to go eat, and then I got home around 1 p.m. Now, that's already like 4 a.m. in Malaysia, and I was struggling. Like to stay up, I'm like, gosh, I'm so tired. It's 1 p.m. But I'm like, you have to stick it out until the evening so that you can get on the regular sleeping schedule. Like, okay, Sky, you can do this. You can do this. And I was like, okay, go exercise. I went to go exercise, came back, and I was like, man, I'm struggling. It's like 3 p.m. I watched some of the NBA playoffs, and I thought to myself, maybe, I should just sleep. And I realized I should sleep because my vision started to get blurry. Like I couldn't read stuff, right? And it was really funny because I was like, oh, this is what it like. Have you guys seen the movie Inception with Leonardo DiCaprio? And I felt like I'm in a dream within a dream, right? Like I am so tired right now. So I just quickly took a shower, and I fell asleep around 7 p.m. And then this morning I woke up at like 2 a.m. and I just been up ever since. I prayed, I did some work. I went to the gym around like 6:30 a.m. I went to a cafe to get some coffee, went home, ate breakfast. And, I think today I'm going to try to push it a little bit more. Instead of sleeping around 7 p.m., today I'm going to push to sleep around 8 to 9 p.m. just to kind of get me in a better sleeping pattern. Because I think this is a good time for me to reset my sleeping schedule. Because I want to sleep earlier and I want to wake up earlier too. Like, of course not 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. I'm thinking I want to sleep by 10, 11, and wake up obviously around like 3, 4 a.m. Like that's going to be like the best schedule for me. So I'm hoping that I can, reset my schedule here too. But here's the interesting thing that I was thinking about, because I was like so tired and like I'm trying not to sleep. And I'm pushing myself not to fall asleep. I'm like getting so drowsy. I can't even think properly. I can't even read, right? And I thought to myself, it's like, what is rest in the spiritual world? Like what is rest? Like we know food. Food in the spiritual world is the words of God. Like breathing, which is an absolute necessity, that is prayer, right? So we heard those two. And I thought to myself, what is sleeping? And because, when we learn about the spiritual world, we know that there's no such thing as sleep in the spiritual world. You never need to sleep. And the only reason we sleep is because we have a physical body, and the physical body needs to rest, right? That's the only reason we need sleep, right? I thought to myself, like, what does it mean to have rest in the spiritual world? And, I was thinking, like, I don't think is there anything like having rest in the spiritual? Because we know that we hear in the Bible to take refuge in Christ, to take refuge in God, to be in God's arms, right? Like that's what it means to rest. I was like, okay, so that maybe receiving love from God, but I couldn't get a definite like this is what sleep is in the spiritual world. But the one thing it reminded me of was the rapture lesson, and this is something that I think we don't fully really realize how crazy this is. Right? So in the rapture lesson, one of the things, when we learn the rapture, one of the things people struggle with is like, hey, we've raptured, but we're still sinning. We've raptured, but we still have bad character. And one of the things Sunseem answered to that is like, it's like a fruit. So what happens is when you rapture, like you could be raptured, but when you go to heaven, it's like if you're an orange, the peel comes off and only the fruit goes up into your mouth, right? And you eat only the fruit. Right? And the peel is what you don't eat, is what you throw away. And the peel is the physical body that has the physical nature. And if you think about this, I was like, that's one of the things that made me so impressed by the words is like, we're raptured, but why are we still struggling with this? Why are we still struggling with that? But what we realize is when you go to heaven, if you don't have a body, you will never be tired and you'll never be hungry. Like those are the two things that happens to your body is you get tired and hungry. There's no limitations. And because we have no physical body, it means that there's not going to be this physical nature that propels us into our bad character. Because think about it. How many times do you get angry or you get frustrated because you're so tired? You're just like, oh, I don't want to deal with this. Oh, I'm so tired. Oh, why are they talking to me? Imagine you're not tired. You never get tired. You'll always be in your best form. And how are we in our best form? When we're fully rested, we can take in more things. We're able to be more forgiving. We're able to be more nicer and kinder because we're not dealing with that body that's saying, go to sleep, just stop talking to this person. Oh, why do you have to deal with this or that, right? It's almost like 80% of our bad character comes out of our physical nature because we're either hangry, right? We're like so hungry or we're tired. And I thought to myself, it's really exciting. It's really exciting for us that when we leave this earth, we're not going to have to ever worry about being tired or hungry. And this is like one of the biggest causes of suffering in the world. All this pain and suffering, most of it comes from people who are dying of hunger, right? Or people who can't sleep, or they're in war, or whatever it is, and people are dying or going through so much pain and suffering from it. And it's kind of one of those things where like, man, I can't, not like I want to die right now, but I'm like, I can't wait till heaven. Because you just don't have to deal with that stuff. Because I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with my body, my physical nature, right? The physical nature that causes us to sin. Like when it comes to, like even when we hit puberty, and we start to have these hormone imbalances and we start to lust and we start to think differently of the opposite sex. We're not going to have those things when the body is gone, right? And that is something that I hope that we'll all be looking forward to is that time where we don't have to deal with that. And once you get rid of that, you're getting rid of so much of these Cain personalities that come out because of the physical nature. So when I was thinking about that, I was like, yeah, you know what? I can't wait that when I don't have to deal with this, like being tired and stuff. You're always at your best condition. And I'm very grateful that we're at this point because when you think about it, when you're at this point, it's kind of cool that we're able to train ourselves through this physical nature. And I think that's how we have to look at this. Going through this physical body, we're going to have all these temptations. We're going to have all these things that are coming against us, but it is part of the training so that we can be that much better when we go to heaven. And I think that's something where you have to take a look at yourself is how good can we actually be? More than people who say, there's some people say, oh, you never know the real character until you see people at their worst. But the one thing Sunseem said I thought was more amazing is, no, you have to look at the opposite. You have to look at how you are at your best, and you'll see that's who you can be, right? And I think that's something that, we don't want to be too negative about certain things, but we want to be people that understand it at a much higher, deeper level too. So I hope that's something that kind of opens our hearts and our minds to ourselves too. How good can you actually be? Look at yourself at your best, because you're not always at your best, right? Actually, I was watching some news and I saw something kind of funny, right? And it was really interesting because it was in the US news and also like around the world. And it's the president of South Korea went to visit the US. And basically, this video that's going viral is the South Korean president singing in English. And he's singing the song American Pie. And it's just out of nowhere. They bring him up to the stage and they talk to him. He's got a translator going on. There's a person on the piano and he just starts singing. And he's actually pretty good. He's actually pretty good. I'm going to see if I get the audio for you guys so you can listen to it. But they're all cheering him on and stuff. And I thought to myself is like, man, that is a total testament to the karaoke culture in Korea. Why Koreans sing so well. Like, he was carrying the tune. He wasn't off at all. And his English, of course, is not perfect, but take a look at YouTube and you'll see. You'll see that he's singing American Pie. It's going viral right now, but go ahead and listen to that. He carries the tune and he's good. So big kudos to him for doing that too, because I know a lot of people are not going to just go and sing in front of everyone else and being in the news and stuff like that too. So I thought that was kind of cool to see the Korean president singing in English the song American Pie. And at the end of it, everyone in the audience starts singing together with him too. So that was kind of cool also. I've been working out for a while too, and when I'm working out, I'm thinking about getting protein powders. And the cool part is, it's probably because my phone is listening to me and seeing what I'm searching on the internet. And this article came out about the studies on powdered protein and how good it is for you. And does it do anything for you? And there's like a ton of like research that's been done on this. Basically, for those of you guys out there who are working out, exercising, doing, consuming powdered protein, they basically said if you consume extra protein, this protein powder, and you only work out 2 to 3 times a week, there's not much benefit. However, there is more of a benefit where you are working out 4 to 5 times a week and having powdered protein, and there is a difference. Right? So basically, it's only if you're dedicated, maybe even professional athlete, but it's going to make that much of a difference and it's something that's quite interesting. And they also said, when do you drink or eat this powdered protein? They basically said it doesn't matter what type of protein or when you eat it. Because, there's debates over if you should eat the protein powder before or after. And they said, no, it's just you taking it makes a difference. And there's no difference between the time, whether you eat it before or after working out. There's not a big difference there. Or what type of protein, like a whey protein or the other types you could buy and stuff like that too. So I thought that was kind of cool because I am working out anyways, right? So that's kind of things like, oh, that's quite interesting. Either way, I don't know why I brought that up. It's mainly because I'm working out and stuff like that. And I work out like 6 to 7 times a week. So I'm like, should I get it? I was like, oh, I guess there is some benefit. So I think I might go buy some powdered protein, but it's usually really gross. Either way, you know what? There's one thing I do want to go over with you guys right now is the trial update. So Sunsteam did have a ruling recently. Remember I told you guys about the ruling that's going to happen because 27th is when Sunsteam's 6-month detention ends, right? But the trial's still going on, and the big debate right now is whether Sunsteam should be detained for another, until the trial is over, right? So what has actually happened is the ruling has come out, and the judge has deemed another 6-month extension of his detention period, so he'll be in there during the time. So it's quite unfortunate that he can't go home during this time. And, he's just in there. It's really sad just to see this entire situation. But the detention period for Sunsteam has been extended for up to 6 more months or until this trial is going to end. And of course, according to the legal community, on April 25th, the 12th Criminal Division of the Daejeon District Court issued an additional arrest warrant for Sunsteam, who was charged with indecent assault and false accusation on the 20th also. So according to the Criminal Procedure Act, the period of detention for Sunsteam was originally scheduled to expire on the 27th, which was yesterday, as the maximum period of detention. And that's for the first trial. But a new warrant is issued for Sunstein for charges that were not included in the existing warrant, and the arrest period is extended for up to 6 months until the verdict of the first trial is pronounced, right? So we're still going over this, and we know that on May 18th, they're going to go over, there's another trial on May 18th where they will see whether they can permit the Netflix audio to be permitted to be used or not. But of course, we do have that third-party forensics team that's going over that audio, and hopefully they'll have that done by that time so that we can submit it to the courts, because preliminary investigation forensics has shown that it is fake and it's been edited and stuff like that too. So I really hope that that's not going to work. So there is the new warrant for Sunstein is something that was not included in the existing warrant, and the arrest period is extended for up to 6 months until the verdict of the first trial is pronounced, which means I think there's, like I was telling you before, we talked about this like maybe a month ago. There's like another 4 or 3 people from Korea that are also accusing Sunstein too. And I think some of them are coming into this new existing warrant. So we'll see what happens here. But yeah, let's keep praying for this, guys. You know, don't ever give up hope on this. Just allow God to make sure that justice will eventually be served. Okay? And Sunstein's lawyer situation has changed too. You know, we know that original firm, because of the public outcry, they had to step down from defending Sunstein. And also the Providence lawyer that took over for that firm has also been replaced, right? So, well, I'm not sure what the full situation is, why he was replaced, but it seems there was no choice but to replace him. Maybe something happened, but I will look into it and I will find out for you guys exactly what happened there, okay? So when I find that out, why that lawyer was replaced, then I can tell you guys, oh, this was the reason for it. So this is why that lawyer was replaced. I'm not sure exactly if there was like foul play or something along that line, but I will let you guys know as soon as possible. Okay. And today, make sure today is also Friday, so we have Until the End podcast with Daniel Baker, and we will have that. We will have it. We will have Daniel Baker's podcast segment at the end today, right? And of course, we're doing this new type of podcasting programming. So when I have a break, it's basically just going to be like one song, right? So that we can have a lot more time to discuss and talk. And I am super thankful for all of you guys chiming in on the podcast I did on Thursday yesterday, trying things in a different way. And a lot of people like this more podcast style, not radio show style, with a lot of music and different stuff like that too. And I'm gonna try this out, a little less, more music, more talks, more discussions, more things to think about. And I will do my best to find some guests to put on here too. And that would also be really cool to do it in that way also. Okay, so let's get into, we're going to have a quick music break. We're going to play one song here, and we'll see you back in right after that song. And that was Rapture Collective over there in Australia. It is their first song together. All My Thanks and Love. That is the song that kicked off everything. And they have 10 songs out already. Some of them doing solos. You have MC One Love. You have Julius, Dr. Abe. And they're just doing an awesome job. So I'm super thankful that we have just such talented people everywhere, all over the world, and I hope it's something that we can definitely support them through our prayers for all the work that they've done. All right, so let's continue on into this podcast. I got several questions asked about me from my Thursday podcast, and 2 people asked about my comments when it came to remember when I told you guys why I was in why I felt that God led me to Malaysia, and, to keep me away from the chaos so I can think more properly and deeply about the situation for this podcast, right? And 2 comments came in, and I want to clarify something just to make sure that everyone knows that the point of what I was saying was not to say that another country was doing bad, right? Or they're really, so the 2 comments was, number 1 is, am I saying that Canada is doing bad? And the second comment is North America worse than Asia? Right? And that's another question that came up here. And I just want to let you guys know, like, the actual point of what I was saying is for myself, right? Because, I'm in North America. I grew up in American Providence. I know everyone over there. And of course, I would be pretty sure if I stayed in Canada, I would probably be traveling to America too, just helping out the situation and visiting other people and such too. But not being in the middle of everything was a benefit for me. And on top of it, the people that are spreading, like we're accusing and such, all the main people are people that I'm close with. Right? So that made it even harder for me. But if I was there seeing them face to face, I could have been compromised more emotionally, right? So, it's I hope that people won't misunderstand. Like, sometimes that happens where it's like, hey, I choose this. And then someone would say, well, does that mean you hate the other thing? And the answer is no, I'm not trying to say that. I'm just saying that that's my situation. And that's why I'm not saying that, is Canada doing bad? And my next question would be is like, I have no idea because I don't know how Canada is doing. I just know the situation, what's going on in North America. And I know it's pretty bad. That situation is bad, right? But I don't know if the church itself or the entire country is doing bad. That's not something that I know. Right? So that's something that, I hope you guys don't interpret that as me saying that, oh, this church is doing terrible. Like, I'm not saying that either. And, that's something that's probably going to be a different opinion from people who know more or less. That's because, I'm already in Canada. I'm already talking to certain people and stuff like that too. And I think it's going to be really up to how much you know of what's going on inside your own churches or your own country. But that was not my purpose of what I was saying. Mine is basically, I would have been much more clear-headed and I wouldn't be as emotionally involved because I wouldn't be talking directly to these people that I know, right? So that's my first thing. The next question was, is North America worse than Asia? Because Asia's pretty bad too. Like in Hong Kong, in Korea, all these other places, like, is it worse than Asia? And I would have to say it's worse to Asia in my perspective because it's all people that I know. Like, you might have your country situation, because I know in North America, the countries aren't coming against them. There's not all this media news saying bad stuff all about Providence like it is, let's say, in Hong Kong or Korea, in Japan, or like the Philippines or whatever it is like that. You're probably not going to see that. But for me, I'm someone who doesn't, really get bothered by the media on the outside. What I'm bothered by more, and I would have to say the situation is worse because it's such an internal thing. Like, I'm not sure about Hong Kong, if they're like, I don't know the situation in Hong Kong. I don't know as much as Taiwan, but what I know in North America is it's people inside. It started inside the church with the accusations and the rumors, like, spreading out, and Europe too, right? It starts from the internal, which I think is far worse than the media coming from the outside, because we've dealt with that before, right? We have dealt with it from 2008, 2009. We've already dealt with the media coming in. That's why it's not as, it's a little bit not as like I'm unfazed by the media on the outside because we've dealt with that before. But it was so brand new and shocking to me because it's all internal. And that's, in North America, it was far worse because it was really, really internal with a lot of leaders and stuff like that too. So that's what I wanted to say to clear up if there's a misunderstanding. I'm not saying that this country's doing bad, or, people might have their own opinions. And you know what? Opinion is opinion. They can believe what they want. And, even like people inside the country, like say in Canada, it's possible that everyone has different opinions because everyone knows differently. They don't, like, you may only know your own situation, may not know all the different workings that are happening inside your church also. And that could be another thing where opinions are different, where one group of people might say it's worse while the other group says it's okay. Right? So that's basically the misunderstanding I wanted to clear up. I'm not, I'm not sitting here trying to say bad stuff about countries and stuff like that. It's more about my situation, why God let me go to Malaysia. Like, the whole thing is about me. It's my, I'm in my own world, right? Why did God make me go to Malaysia? It's for my sake, right? For me to do this podcast better. So, for me, that's kind of the point that I want to make. Is it's not about me trashing a country. it's about me understanding why God led me to that place for 6 months. And that would be the whole point of it. And I'm sure most of you guys have thought of it that way either. Most of you have thought about it that way too. Either way. So there's this big thing that I've been thinking about, right? It's a big topic that maybe a lot of people might avoid. And because of the situation, excuse me, just need a quick drink of my bubbly, whatever you is, sparkling water, and I'm drinking this strawberry bubbly right now. But it's a question of like, now we know the situation right now, and of course I'm in Canada, and I get to hear like more stuff like, oh, this is what happened. Oh, this person's still here. Oh, this person's not here anymore, kind of thing, right? So, the question that comes to my mind is, why do people, I'm like, sometimes we think to ourselves like, man, why do people leave? Like, we can't understand it. Why do people leave this history? Or you could even think to the point of, why do people fall? There's 2 points. There's two things that are like, in my head, I was like, man, why do people leave? And then it makes me think even more is like, oh yeah, and why do people fall? Like things that people may not understand clearly. Why do people leave or why do they fall, right? And I thought about this for a while. I think about this yesterday. And I thought about my life in this history for the last 25 years. And I was kind of like that in the beginning too, is like, man, I can't understand why people would leave Providence or why would they commit the fall, right? And, when I hear about people leaving or committing the fall in the past, it made me upset. Like, how could they leave? How could they commit the fall, right? I was like, why? How could this happen? And it was such a terrible thing in my mind, and it was so bad, it kind of made me think differently of these people. But after all my experiences in this history, slowly I began to understand more and more. Like I realize now that it's understandable. It's something that is very, very possible, and it's happened many times in my life too. Not to me, but to the people I've been with. Like, so when I look at the first question of why do people leave this history? How could they leave? Why do they leave? And for me, ever since the beginning, I've had very, very close friends in this history that have left, right? And, and even today in the situation right now, I have many of my close friends on the other side, right? On like KJS's side or just leaving altogether. And, I've been through this cycle so many times. But this one thing that's kind of interesting to me is they never left when I was there. They all left when I moved to other countries or regions. Like I've never seen it like in front of my eyes kind of thing. But it's when like my best friends, like even when I first came to Providence in 1998, I had like 2 really, really close friends and both of them left. Couldn't understand. And I would just get so emotional about it. And I would take my emotions and I slide them under the carpet, just trying not to feel anything, or else I just didn't want to deal with it, kind of doing like the man thing. We'll talk about it in the man cave later, right? But this kind of thing happened more than I liked. And I realized it's not, at an eventual point, after you've gone through it so many times, I realized that it's not something I should be surprised by. Like when people leave or when people are leaving Providence, yeah, we get shocked, we get upset, like, how could they leave? Oh. But I realized the more and more I went through it, it's not something I should be surprised by. It shouldn't be something that affects me. And the reason is because we are dealing with people. It's about people. And one of the things that we know about people is people change. Our hearts change all the time. And one of the things we never know is what people are going through in their life. Like we can't say we know everything, even about our best friends. We don't know what they're thinking. We don't know what they're doing in their free time. There's a ton of people that leave and we think to ourselves, oh, they were doing so good. And the answer is we thought they were doing so good. But obviously there's something in their hearts that was holding them back. We change all the time. Even like when Susie says like, people change. And he said, especially girls, because girls are more sensitive and they're more emotional. Like girls' hearts changes 10,000 times in a day. Their heart is like a butterfly, right? We change. We constantly change. And now after all that I've experienced, all the things I've been through, I would have to say, I'm not saying I'm used to it like, oh, it's normal, they can leave. I'm not saying that I'm not affected in that way, but you realize that it's quite a normal thing, right? Through my experiences in life, I'm not as affected as I was before because I'm calloused by the many experiences in my life. but it has helped me to cope with it better. And I just realized in the end, one of the things that we have to kind of understand is everyone has free will and choice. Just everyone has a choice to do what they want. That's why it's hard for me to get angry at it, because it's a personal choice. We can't control this, right? In the end, when you think about your life with God, it's not going to be based on what other people did. It's just based on you and God. That's the only thing that's controllable, right? Is your relationship with God. And that's the thing that you're going to be held to. You're responsible for is your life. And when you actually, this week's message about reading the stories, or last week's message about reading the stories in the Bible to understand what's happening today, well, if we start to read the Bible more and more, we're going to realize that people leaving is not a recent thing. It's happened since the beginning of God's history. Just look at Adam and Eve. It's happened since the beginning. Cain and Abel, one leaves. It's happened since the beginning. You had Noah and his son Ham went against him. Think about the Israelites in Egypt and Zin, right? How much they complained, how much they resented and went against God. Look at the Israelites in Canaan. When Joshua came, they were fighting. How many times did they go against God there? Right? Zin is like probably the best one because God did everything for them. And even when Moses went to go get the 10 Commandments, they started worshiping an idol. They went completely against God. Look at Israel and the kings, Israel with the prophets. And if you read the Bible and the stories in it, you're going to see that it was so common for people to go against God. It was a normal thing, right? This is why the Sunday message told us, look at the past stories in the Bible to understand the present and what will happen in the future. And it's quite a common thing all throughout the Bible where people turn their backs on God. Even though, think about Aaron. When Moses went to get the 10 Commandments with Joshua, right? Joshua waited at the bottom and then Moses went to get the 10 Commandments. Who was the one that it was okay to fashion an idol and worship it? It was Aaron. Aaron was the one that spoke on behalf of Moses against the powerful Pharaoh. He saw all the miracles God did, and yet he was there turning his back. And they started worshiping an idol when he knew, when they all knew it was the wrong thing. So you're going to see that there's all these powerful people that went against God, right? The people that have seen God's power, they went against him. And I think it's such a perfect thing for us to understand, even in the Bible, so many people that were close to God. Judas Iscariot was one of the 12 disciples, the 12 apostles who saw Jesus' life in the flesh and saw it with his own eyes, heard the words with his own ears, and he still turned his back on God. He still did, right? And when you begin to realize, and you have the life experience inside Providence to see these things, is not as surprising. Yes, it's surprising. It's an emotional thing that personally affects me, this is one of my friends that I've known for so long. They've been in Providence longer than I have. To see them turn their backs on this history, yeah. The thing that's sad is not that, oh my gosh, how could they do this? It was more of, that's my personal relationship that's gone now. And that hurts more. It hurts. That's the emotional part that affects me. But it doesn't affect my faith itself. Because you've kind of get to the point where you realize people are going to make their own choice and their decisions. And who am I to be the one to say that that I know what they're going through? Because my answer is I don't. Everyone goes through certain things. I don't know what this person has gone through. And sometimes they've gone through things that are too much for them to bear. Right? Sometimes they're in a situation where it's more of they're struggling because some people have lost that spiritual fervor. Some people have lost that spiritual wanting, right? It just happens in life. It's a normal thing, right? And a lot of people are going to go through this, and we're going to see it time and time again, right? So for me, that's the first question was, how do people leave? And I'm not as affected by it. I'm more affected by the emotional attachment I have because of relationship, but I'm not surprised by it. And on top of it, it doesn't affect my faith, right? And that's kind of how I deal with that. The second one is what about something even more crazier, like committing the fall, right? And this is something that is kind of interesting because people committing the fall, remember, the fall is not about their faith. It's about love. That's what the fall is, right? Because, you got to understand how powerful love is. Like, I don't understand how someone could commit the fall. It's like the thing we learned. It's the worst thing that you can do, right? Against God's heart, whatever it is, right? And when you think about how powerful love is so powerful that even when you know that something is right, even when you know something is better, when love comes into the picture, then you will knowingly do the wrong thing. That's how powerful love is. Right? You can lie to the police. Why? Because they're searching for your lover and you won't tell them where they are. Right? And what's going to usually happen is love is so powerful. Yes, you know you're doing the wrong thing. You know it. Inside your heart, you know you're doing the wrong thing. You've fallen. You've put someone else above God. That love you have for God is not as high as the one you have for that person. That's what happened to Adam and Eve, right? This is what happens when people commit the fall. They put someone above God. So when you put someone above God, one of the things you start to do is you try to find reasons why something is wrong with providence, why something is wrong with sunsteam, why something is wrong with God. Is this a history of God? And we try to justify our love for something we put higher than God, right? Because that's the power of love. Even if you'll go against God because of that love. Right? Even though when I think about the fall, one of the things that's kind of interesting is this. You can't get away from the most important thing in life, which is love. We're created in love. And all it really depends on is where your love is. If your love is in one area, then you sacrifice other areas, no matter how good, no matter how bad it is. And this is why we hurt each other so much, because of love. It doesn't make sense, but that's what love is, right? When your love for God is no longer fiery, when your love for God is no longer the top thing, your love for other things becomes stronger. It's just a natural thing. We naturally look for love in our lives, and when one love fades, so your love for God fades, then your love for that other person, right? Even though they are nothing compared to God. Think about it. Compare God, like you're falling in love with a human being and you're going to put them above God. If you were to compare God to human beings, whose love is greater? It's obvious. You couldn't even compare the love between a human being and God, right? Because think of what happens. If when you fall in love with someone who is not perfect and has flaws, you love them so much, you look past it. They could yell at you. They could say bad things about you. Some people will even hurt you physically, right? But you'll look past it. This is why people stay in toxic relationships, because they truly love that person. They're just so enamored by that person, that desire for that person. Everyone else on the outside can see how bad the relationship is. Everyone sees it. Everyone can see this person is not that great. But if you're in love, you can't help it. Like, I'm going to be honest with you too. In my life, like 25 years in province, I'd be lying if I said to you, I haven't given my heart to other people. It's just natural when you're constantly working with them. Of course, I don't give my body, but sometimes feelings just happen. It's a natural thing and process what we go through with the opposite sex, because that's what we were created for, right? And the only thing that needs to happen is we need to properly educate each other so that we can deal with it properly, instead of hiding and then start doing things together in secret. And everyone knows it's happening, but you think to yourself that you're hiding it, right? When you're young, your love for God is young, and it's difficult to handle when your love fades and a love for a person comes in. But the most important part we're trying to do is when we're younger, we're trying to work on how to make sure your love for God is greater than anything else, right? This is where, you'll realize more deeply about idol worship. Like, wait, what do you mean by idol worship? Like, are you worshiping a human being more than God? And the answer is, if your love for God for a human is greater than God's, if you put someone else above God, that's idol worship, right? And that's really important for us to think about. The moment you put someone else above God is the moment your love will go to that person and it becomes greater than your love for God. And this is what happens in life. Why? Because during your life in this history, you're not always spiritual all the time. You're not always in the spiritual high. We're not always at our best. And in the right moment, well, we could say the wrong moment, Satan will put someone there at that moment in time when your love for God is not as fiery as it should be. And what happens is your heart turns towards them. And this is why I do believe when it comes to the fall, we got to handle things in a wise way. Like, my big question is, how should we treat people who fall or leave providence? Do we treat them like sinners? Or should we love them and respect their own decision? Right? Because of one person's decision, if it doesn't really, it's like, of course, if they're not coming and doing something bad against me personally, right? How terribly should you look at them at all? Should you? Because in the end, I think one of the things that I read in the Bible is, in Romans chapter 14, verse 4, is, who are we to judge another servant, right? Romans chapter 14, verse 4, it says, who are you to judge another man's servant? To his own master he stands or falls, right? Yeah, he can be held up, right? For God is able to make him stand. He can be. God can make him stand again, right? But we can't be the judge to say that, no, they're done. They're done. No, that's up to God. It's not up to us. See, the master decides on the fate of their own servant, not the people who are watching, not the public opinion. Like what's happening in society today is public opinion becomes such a big deal. But it's not. It's God. God decides the fate of his own servant, not the people who only see partially. Because, one of the things that we have to think about, and what's the wisest way to do this, is our duty is to love. It's not to ostracize. It's not to slander. It's not to say bad things about people. No matter what the situation, circumstance is, even if they leave, even if they commit the fall, it's not up to us to judge. Yes, we know it's wrong. We know it's going to be wrong, right? From what we see, it's wrong. But the right thing to do is to love and pray that they stand up again. One thing you look at that verse of Romans chapter 14, verse 4, in the end, what's it saying? Right? Let me pull, the version I have is the King James. So let me read to you in the NIV. Who are you to judge someone else's servant? To their own master, servants stand or fall, and they will stand, for the Lord is able to make them stand. And that's one of the things that says here is God can make them stand again. And you know what? It's okay. It's not up to us to judge. I've seen so many times where everyone knows this person fell or did something bad or left providence, and then Sunstein puts them in a high position again and everyone's angry about it. Why would we be angry? It's not even up to us. It's not up to us. It's up to us to love. It's up to us to pray that they stand again. Because the one thing is, to put ourselves in the position of judgment, you got to think about this very carefully. One of the things that Sunstein said was, if you were able to go to hell for just 1 minute, then you would never want anyone to go there. You would never wish upon someone to go to hell. So think about the situation now with all the people and all the people that betray or go against this history, whatever it is, or, just look at the situation now. Are you so angry that you wish for these people to go to hell? Number one, it means we don't understand how terrible hell is, right? And number two, we don't really understand the heart of God, the shimjung of God. How do I know how much God doesn't want people to go to hell? Well, he's willing to sacrifice the Messiah, the Son of God, sacrifice that person he loves the most so that no one would go to hell. That's how much. It's about salvation. We need to be those that don't take the seat of the judge, but we take the seat of the people who love and understand God's shimjung and use that power and emotion to pray so that people can stand again. Because in the end, these people that I love, in the end, I just want them to be back in this history. Yes, they've done terrible things. I'm like, wow, I can't believe they did. I can't believe they did this. Right? But we have to think about it. Even if someone leaves, even if someone commits the fall, what are you thinking at that moment? Are we thinking with the heart of God? Are we thinking with the shimjung of God? Or are we thinking like, I'm the judge now? Do you think God really wants to send anyone to hell? those who know God's Shimjung will know the answer to this, right? And that's kind of one of the thoughts I've been having because it's just happening a lot right now. And I think that's something that we have to think about very, very deeply. What does this mean? What does this mean? And I hope it's something that all of us can really think about also. Okay? So, that's kind of a different thought that I've been having these days. And I hope you guys can comment on this because I would love to hear what you guys think about this commentary that I'm doing right now. But on top of it, I'd like you to even ask more questions so we have more stuff to discuss, more things to go deeper into too, right? So I think that's something that we should be thinking about even more deeply anyways, all right? So we're going to do another quick music break here. Right? Actually, you know what? I think I need to do. We'll do a quick break here.
When God gives me the word, I will certainly respond. Amen. He has led and guided me until this very day. Amen. I will keep on following the path of righteousness. Amen. I'll live according to the word of the Lord. Amen. Even now, I will act when He gives the word, and again every day. I'll act on the will in this world so full of noise. I pray and wait to hear the precious voice of my Savior. The word, I will certainly respond. Amen. Just as I've always done, I will follow heaven's will. Amen. Even with the smallest things, I will seek her wisdom out. Amen. Although I'm lacking, please speak to me again. Even now, I will act when He gives the word, and again every day. I'll act on the will in this world so full of noise. I pray and wait to hear the precious voice of my Savior. Amen. I look only to my God, my love. He is leading me on the right path. My God is my true love, my strength and salvation. Amen. Even now, I will act when He gives the word, and again every day. I'll act on the will in this world so full of noise. I pray and wait to hear the precious voice of my Savior. Even now, I will act when He gives the word, and again every day. I'll act on the will in this world so full of noise. I pray and wait to hear the precious voice of my Savior. Hear the precious voice of my Savior. Amen. At the word of our God, I always say, Amen. At the word of the Spirit, I always say, Amen. At the true word of life, I always say, Amen. At the word of the Lord, I always say, Amen. At the word of our God, I always say, Amen. At the word of the Spirit, I always say, Amen. At the true word of life, I always say, Amen. At the word of the Lord, I always say, Amen.
And that was one of those newer songs that came out on the the Providence music channel over there on YouTube. This song is called Amen. It's a very, very old song actually, and it's just being redone. And I think a lot more songs are going to be redone now too, because of the current situation. They do need to do some more recording, so I do need to go through my songs also and edit them and take the songs out that need to be taken out too. But that's another topic in itself. Either way. So it is Friday, and of course, every single Friday, we do have these awesome special segments, and I look forward to these too. And today, of course, last segment of the week and for this podcast today too. This is Until the End with Daniel Baker, and he's going to talk about the most successful method for being more productive in your life. So everyone, please welcome all the way over there in Korea. This is Daniel Baker with Until the End.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Do It Until the End podcast. Hope everyone's having a really amazing week, and today, I've done a lot of stuff because, I really realized to become productive and to have a really good environment, I really needed to think about the lighting. The lighting within my environment is very important. That's what I'm constantly realizing. So I got these LED strips where I put it all across my room, and it looks really beautiful. And it's very soothing when I sleep, but also when I wake up, I can just turn on a button, press a button, and then I'm like, it's so bright where I just pretty much have to wake up. And that's it's a situation where I press a button and it forces me to wake up. So I just don't spend more time when I'm in bed. So today we're going to talk about an amazing concept that I happened to stumble into when I was researching about productivity. And I was having issues with my productivity because I would be off and on. I would be very focused, and then some weeks I'll finish 2 books in a week. And then some weeks I won't even do 50 pages of reading. So there's a lot of variance in my productivity. So when I was researching about productivity, about how to become more productive, I was able to find a really fascinating way to structure my time so I could become more productive. And this is what I recommend for everyone who has big chunks of time that they don't know you guys might not know how to structure it particularly. However, if you have clear goals and you have clear tasks that you need to do within a specific time, then using this method will be very helpful to becoming more productive. So the method I want to talk about is the 90-minute chunk method. So what is the method? So let's say you have 90 minutes and you say to yourself, okay, I know right now I need to read 50 pages of a book, a random book, or a textbook for school. So you have a goal, right? And you have a task. So you sit down for 90 minutes. You sit down for 90 minutes and study. Do you look at your phone? Nope. Do you go to the restroom? Nope. Do you have a conversation with your parents or family members? Nope. What you do for this 90 minutes is the most important because you want to get really deep work done during these 90 minutes. So you kind of have to make your environment really well so you can focus during those 90 minutes. And during this time, you really need to focus on what you need to get done and make sure that you're able to focus deeply and have a really good rhythm so you can finish the task that you need to do. Now, I've been doing this for a couple weeks now, and I can say that my productivity has increased multiple levels. I can say that I've been able to do, at first, only maybe one 90-minute chunk a day. However, these days I've been able to do 2 90-minute chunks and one 60-minute chunk later in the afternoon. So what this 90-minute chunk, this roadmap, how it helped me was I was really bad at, oh, I have a task. Oh, I have a goal. Okay. But I'm just going to do this until I want to rest or until I think about something else. That was actually a really bad way to study or become productive because, while you're studying, there are many times where I just look off into the distance and just stare, and maybe after that I'll be like, oh, I'll just use my phone now. And because I didn't put a time limit, I wasn't really focused, right? I'll have like 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And why 90 minutes? Because 90 minutes is a really good time to really focus and sit down. And after 90 minutes, you kind of become a little bit exhausted. So what you want to do, you want to go outside, maybe do a little bit of a workout, maybe get more coffee and take a 10-minute break, maybe a little bit of a nap. And then after that, you do your next 90-minute chunk. And this is really, really helpful because I've been doing a lot of editing, some voice work, and chunking my time into 90 minutes is very, very useful. And it kind of, the office life of 9 to 5, you're constantly you have 4 hours where you have to do work and then lunch and then another 4 hours. I mean, really, if you realize that, if as a company, you might have to realize that for 4 hours, do you expect your workers for 4 hours to sit down, do work at the computer, not feel any physical pain or physical irritation, and do that for a long time? I mean, some people can do that, but to be perfectly realistic, I wouldn't be able to function in that kind of environment. So for productivity, the key to being more productive is to find a way and a method that works for you. This could be 60-minute chunks, 90-minute chunks. It can be a totally different type of method, but you need to find what works for you. Because for me, I'm a person that needs to move around. To be perfectly honest, it's very difficult for me to sit down and actually do work for more than 2 hours. It's a struggle. That's why I struggle during a lot of tests because I need to move around. And when I was taking my AP test, sometimes I'll get some leg cramps, so I would just move around a little bit and stretch during the second hour of the test. It was very uncomfortable, and that's when I kind of realized that, man, for a person like me, studying for long periods of hours, sitting down, very difficult, and I need to make a change. As I'm making this podcast, it's like this 20th episode, so 20 weeks of mental health and self-improvement. So one of the big things I want everyone to take away from this podcast, the Do It Until the End podcast, is I want everyone to know and to realize the importance of mentally and physically trying to become better and trying to improve. Because if we're going to just constantly live our life with the same habits, with the same actions, then nothing's really going to change. And if we want to improve, and if we want to hit higher highs and become more successful, we need to become improvers, daily improvers, improvers for life. That's all I have for you guys today. Sorry, my voice is kind of weird. I had a couple meetings today with the SS group, and it was a lot of fun, but it's a little bit taxing on my voice right now. To everyone who's improving themselves to become closer to the Lord, and to those who are going to the end, let's walk this path together. Peace out, guys. Bye-bye.
And thank you so much, Daniel, for another wonderful episode of Until the End. And I'm sure a lot of people are gaining from his research and what he's actually trying out with his own life and his actions. And I hope it's something that all of us will be able to gain even more from too. All right. So there it is, guys. That is the last segment of this entire week. Hope you guys really enjoyed this new style of podcast that we're doing right now. Keep bringing your comments. I'd love to hear your questions. There was one question I was supposed to do today, but I'm going to wait for it and do it on Monday. All right. Everyone, have an amazing and awesome weekend, and we'll see you guys again next week on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, I'm on the Morning Star Drive, I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, I'm on the Morning Star Drive,